value today in the market with the implications that are happening around us?
Well, it partially depends on whether it's going to be a war. If it looks like Mr. Obama is very keen to have a war, and if he's very keen to have a war, value is going to be on the short side. Maybe in oil, maybe in gold, maybe in commodities, because unfortunately, war is good for commodities. It's not good for anything else. I don't own commodities because of war, but if war happens, then that's about the only thing I know that will go up.
Okay. What are your thoughts about how the marketing of this war is being brought off? I know you say America appears to want a war. Do you believe that this is from an economic or political situation? Because in the past, America has been involved in economic wars.
Well, I'm trying to figure it out. I cannot conceivably figure out what's going on. Why Mr. Obama is so keen to have war, especially since the rest of the world says no, we don't want war. But he seems to be determined to do it anyway. Uh, all I can figure, Jack, is they've got this problem coming up with the budget in October. I guess he's looking for a cover so that he can wrap the flag around himself. So we got to raise taxes to fight the war, and it's a cover to raise taxes. I cannot figure out any other conceivable reason for anybody, any rational person.
Okay. My next question is, and we're just moving to macro questions now. Do you have any interest in Europe? It's been in the news for 3 years. It's been out of favor for a while now, and you are famous for being a contrarian investor. What are your thoughts about Europe? Is it contrarian enough? Has it turned, or is it still time to watch it?
Well, I don't really have many investments in Europe. I have some old leftover kind of investments. I don't own the euro. I'm not short the euro. I'm really basically just watching Europe at the moment. My investments, I'm looking for new investments. I'm looking at places like Russia. I mentioned commodities before. I'm looking at airlines, which may be getting beaten down, and I will perhaps buy some European airlines if there's war and if everything collapses. But I don't have too much interest in Europe at the moment.
Okay. My next one is a question about Australia. They've done very well with the commodity boom based out of China for the last decade or so. Is Australia a natural short at this point in the expansion cycle? Corresponding follow-up, has China peaked in this expansion? So is Australia the short at this time, and is it a short because of China?
Well, it's perhaps a little, it may be a short, but you're not early in the game, Jack. The Australian dollar is down, what, 15 or 20% here in the last few months. So we're not the first to think of it if it's a short. Conceivably, but many Australian stocks are down a great deal. It's never been my way to short things that are down a lot. It's not
Okay,
to say
so
that Australia is not a short.
okay,
As
so
far
it's
as
gone too
China is
far.
concerned, the Chinese stock market is down about 60 or 70% from its all-time high. I'm a little leery of shorting anything that's down 60 or 70% from its all-time high.
Yes, sir. Point made. On India, I have quite a few questions on India. Is it too early to buy India in this round of its current crisis?
Well, I'm short India, so I'm not covering my shorts. The Indian government keeps making one mistake after another, as far as I can tell. If they ever really sort of changed, but every time they start doing something or they change governments, they all do the same old thing. They change ministers, they change governments, and nothing changes, except they make one mistake after another. At the moment, the Indian government is blaming its problems on gold.
Yes, sir. I
India's
wondered about
problems are
that.
not from gold. I mean, the reason people buy gold is because the Indian government makes problems. They're getting it backwards. So I'm still short India. I'm not covering my shorts.
Okay. How will India handle its balance of payments? Or sorry, let me rephrase this. Ask how India is going to finance their current account deficit outside of luxury duties, especially if oil stays at these levels. This goes towards your short on India.
Well, India does have a huge balance of trade problem. Uh, they've got many economic problems, which is why they have a balance of trade problem. They keep trying to solve it with band-aids. They would love nothing more than to eliminate the import of gold. Gold is their second largest import. They put tariffs on, they put restrictions on, they're doing everything they can to attack it that way. My way to do it would be to make basic economic changes in India, but unfortunately, we have too many bureaucrats who are too wedded to the old ways.
Thank you, sir. Next one would be: will this current event in the emerging markets turn into the next Asian contagion that happened in '97? Do you believe that the end of, or the tapering, the end of QE, is this causing the next Asian contagion? Although globally, we'll call it emerging markets. Is this one going to be bigger?
Well, if there's war, I mean, yeah, tapering is significant, but if there's war, that trumps all other things that are going on in the world right now. But let's say there's not war. It may be that Obama's going to rise up, since everybody in the world is saying, we're not going to help you. Tapering is going to affect everybody, Jack. It's not just Asia. It's going to affect the U.S. It's going to affect everybody. This is the first time in recorded history when all major central banks around the world are printing huge amounts of money. Now, that's never happened before. So you have an artificial sea of liquidity floating everywhere. If and when it stops, everybody's going to suffer, including Asia. But Asia, at least where the creditors are, the debtors are in the West, and normally debtors suffer more than creditors when things go wrong.
What are your thoughts about Japan today, specifically the BOG's ability to maintain rates and inflation? With all of the news that's going on, Japan has started to slide out of the news. Thoughts? Well,
I don't have a position in Japan. I sold my Japanese shares. I sold the currency. I'm neither long nor short Japan at the moment. I'm watching. Fortunately, I sold. It looks like at a reasonably good time. Japan's got serious longer-term problems. The central bank there has said they will print unlimited, that's their word, unlimited amounts of money to save Japan. Well, that's never worked in the long term. Printing a lot of money is usually a disaster for a country in the long and even medium term. So the Japanese have a serious problem. They've got a declining population. They have horrible demographics. They have debt which is going through the roof, and Mr. Abe has said he's going to increase the debt even more. I don't see any reason to buy Japan. I think about shorting Japanese JGBs, the long-term bonds, government bonds, but I mean, the Bank of Japan has said they'll buy all they are. So they have more money than I do, so I don't want to sit and fight the Japanese central bank.
Go ahead, sir.
Anybody with any sense probably should short the long-term government bonds, because eventually the market has more money than the central bank.
Never fight a printing press with digital ink, I think was what Smarter Man once said. For me, smarter man than me. Questions on agriculture, sir. Is American agriculture overpriced from a land basis?
Well, I'm sure some of it is, at least temporarily. There's no question about that. But overall, American land is not that expensive. You can go to many places. I mean, yes, if you go to a few counties in Iowa, you see that prices have gone up a great deal. And certainly prices around America have gone up a lot. But a lot of agricultural land in North America, Canada, and the U.S. is still not wildly expensive, especially if I'm right in that agricultural products prices are going to go up a whole lot in the next 5 or 10 years. If that's the case, then these prices, even though they are high and they look very high, will turn out not to be so high after all.
Okay. Where would you buy farmland today to be placed in a family trust for 20 years with the results compounded in the trust? Africa, India, U.S., Central Europe. Where would farmland be that you would park it?
Of those three, it would certainly be Africa. I mean, you can buy, not in not all countries, you cannot. It's not legal for foreigners to buy in some African countries, but Africa's got staggering potential for agriculture. You may know the Chinese are down there buying up all they can. They see what I think I see coming, that there are going to be serious problems in agriculture down the road. And, in some African countries, I mean, the Congo, you just sit by the side of the road and things grow so terribly, terribly lush, and the soil is so good. Somebody just has to go there and clear it and plant it and produce.
A couple of energy questions, and I thank you, sir, for your time. This is phenomenal. Do you think that the U.S. can actually become energy independent, given the historical political landscape of the oil markets?
Well, I don't quite see how that's going to happen, short of serious financial collapse in the U.S. Yes, if the world comes, we'll be energy independent.
Well said.
Unfortunately, the natural gas boom may not be such. I'm losing my voice. May not be such a boom because the number of drilling rigs has gone down by 75%. Jack, I got to get some water.
Yes,
One
sir.
second.
I'll wait, and I will take the camera. We are live right now with Jim Rogers, and he is answering all of our questions. I want to thank everyone who's watching us. And Jim will be right back with us in a couple of moments as he gets some water. This is.
I got the water, Jack.
There he is.
I should have had enough sense to get water before.
No worries, sir. I just want to thank you for being on air.
Natural gas is down by 75% in the last a couple of years. The number of pumps, the orders for pumps are down 50%. We're finding, what happened? Everybody drilled the gas. It was wonderful. They rushed out and drilled a lot more wells. But now we're a few years into it, and these wells have very short lives, it turns out. And so people are not drilling as much now as they used to. If we can solve the problem of production declining very rapidly, then this could go on. And we're finding that the same is now true of the oil wells as well. Their production declines by 40 to 60% or 70% after 1 year. So it's all been great and a lot of fun, but we're not finding it's quite the nirvana that we hoped it might be once upon a time. Now, could we become energy efficient? Sure. Independent? Sure. There are lots of offshore places we could drill. We could allow more nuclear energy. We could have more clean coal. But, yeah, that'll happen someday, Jack. But someday is a long, long, long way from now.
Yes, sir. Is this America's last war in the Middle East, the one that we started the show off? Do you see do you see future conflicts with China in the South China Sea versus, let's say, the Middle East? Energy independence allowing America to pick a different target.
Unless this is the big one, Jack. No, we're going to have many more wars in the Middle East, I'm afraid. There are a dozen players or so, and many of them are making mistakes repeatedly over the years. So I'm afraid we're going to have continued wars for a long time to go until maybe we'll have a big one, and that'll be the end of it, the last one. But the Middle East is a little bit like before the world of Europe before 1914. There are recurring problems and recurring mistakes. I don't see how this could possibly be our last war, unless it's the big one, which goodness knows I hope it's not.
Same here, sir. Last series of questions. And I'll pick up on your 1914-1913 prelude of the Federal Reserve's arrival on the scene. And so, federal questions. What are your thoughts on monetary policy under potential GOP presidency and Summers' chairmanship, as Summers now appears to be the shoo-in?
I don't know whether Mr. Summers is the shoo-in or not. It doesn't really matter because, they're all the same. The pool of candidates all think the same, all act the same. They all go by the same misguided policy. So it doesn't matter if it's Mr. Summers or who. I mean, they're not going to pick somebody who understands it and gets it right, I assure you. So it doesn't matter whether it's Summers or anybody else. It's not going to change.
Okay. In the 1980s, when you were trading futures, there there was large bid-ask spreads, and the markets were a lot more concentrated. Today, we've spread out to many exchanges, and now we have these flash crashes. Which was easier to trade in, and which would you prefer? Would you go back to where we were, even in futures, and have pits again? Or do we need to just accept high-frequency trading, in essence, and move into the electronic world? Are we the last dinos?
Well, 2 points, Jack. First of all, it's never been easy for me. Since I've been in the business, I hear guys all the time talking about, oh, it used to be in the good old days so easy. When I was back there in the good old days, it wasn't so easy. I was struggling every day. I suspect they were too. As far as going back to the pits, it's not going to happen. I mean, the world's electronic now. You can start a pit. You can tell anybody to go to the pit all day long, but somebody's going to come along with a computer in their garage and put you out of business. So whether we like it or not, electronics, technology, it's all here, and it's going to get more important, not less important.
Thank you. Last question, sir. 10 years after your famous adventure book, what has changed globally? What hasn't?
Oh, not much has changed. I tried to write the book. I tried to write both of my books of adventure about how the world would probably pretty much continue to. Well, I was looking for the long-term trends. I couldn't really think of anything that has changed very dramatically. I'm sure there must be something. I just cannot think of it off the top of me. A lot's changed, you know. I predicted Mubarak would be tossed out in Egypt. That's happened. Lots of things like that have happened, but it continues to be the same process. Egypt is going to continue to disintegrate. Unfortunately, it looks like the Middle East is going to continue to disintegrate. Many parts of the world. One change, I guess I would say, I'm more optimistic about Russia than I used to be. In fact, I was pessimistic on Russia for 46 years. I first went there in 1966 and was pessimistic forever after that. I am now becoming more optimistic about Russia, so that's something that's changed. Myanmar has opened up. I suggested Myanmar would be a great place to invest. I haven't done any. I mean, I've done a few things in Myanmar. They don't have a stock exchange yet. So yes, Myanmar has opened up. That's a thing. It was closed when I was there during the book. A few things like that have happened, but they've all been, other than Russia, more or less what I anticipated.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jack Barnes, and this is BTFDtv, and we have had with us Jim Rogers, and he is welcome to return anytime, and I will be reaching out to him in a few months to ask him to please return, and I will have another long list of questions to ask him, and hopefully that I will ask better questions next time. On behalf of BTFD and Jim Rogers, thank you very much, our audience. Sir, do you have any last comments you want to make?
Well, be careful. These are very perilous times. Be very careful and be very worried, because I'm afraid the next few years we're going to see even more upheavals than we've seen in the past. World debt levels continue to go through the roof instead of being dealt with, and it's all going to be worse as problems arise.
On that note, we're signing off until our next broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Let's do it again sometime.